I played the island in WWE 2K25 for 12 hours, and here's what I think. So initially when I heard there was going to be an island in WWE 2K25, I got pretty excited. I'll be honest with you, anytime they try something new in a WWE game, I get excited and my interest is piqued. I also heard that it was next-gen console exclusive, so that also piqued my interest, meaning, wow, they're probably going to have some awesome stuff in here because it's exclusive to the PS5 and the Xbox S and X, so I wasn't sure what was going to happen. Then I heard that people were going to be upset because they weren't going to be able to get this content in the WWE game if they don't have the console that is the next gen. I don't know, 50-50, you should get the new console, you should not, I don't know. The way that I look at it is anytime you're pushing console exclusive for the next generation, that means they're making the mode better than the previous generation, so moving forward is always a good thing for me when they're going to go to the future of this game. Honestly, I think that them going console exclusive for the next gen was a good thing, but you might not. Now, when we get to the island, I actually had a chance to play it early at Creator Fest for WWE 2K25 down at Full Sail with a bunch of other creators. The first thing that we did when we got into it is we actually just went to the island together to play with our friends because for the first time ever, they had online access to the game. They usually don't at these things, but Full Sail University has a esports league and a whole bunch of other stuff, so they were able to get online working on these consoles. Not that that was really cool, so we were able to play this online, and that was pretty sweet. I actually got in a match with Johnny, I actually got in a match with Pulse, I got in a match with Macho, and I thought that was really cool to be able to get on and play with your friends. Honestly, it was really easy just to get in and play with your friends because all you have to do is go near a player, click a few buttons, and you're in a match with your friend. Now, I will say this, the connection for that wasn't great, and there was issues where they would actually not play very well. Like you would be in the same match, but it would just feel kind of off. But it's that typical WWE 2K online stuff, so it wasn't anything that I wasn't really used to, so it wasn't shocking to me. I mean, it was on par with how they've had the games before. I was able to play a match. I ended up, getting used to the online lag that there is. The reversal timing isn't the same as offline, so you have to get used to that. And there that was. I never did go into a match where I just sat there and waited for a match in the lobby because that wasn't what I was doing. I was trying to play with my friends. It was very cool though to go meet up with your friends, say, hey, we're gonna go meet up at this Rey Mysterio mask shop and we're gonna get a mask and we're gonna upgrade our guy and see what that is, and then you just run around with your friends and play with them. It is very cool. There was no communication with your friends on a microphone there. We didn't have that ability even with the PS5 controller that I have now. Being able to talk to people on there is just not a thing that you could do. I don't know if that's something that they want to do or they don't want to do. A chat room is not a thing also. So if you actually want to talk to people, you're probably going to have your microphone in a party and stuff like that so you could play with them. Like if you're playing with your friends, you're probably talking on Discord or whatever. So that's probably how you're going to do it. So I think that it's kind of a miss that you can't just talk to people right away on the island. Like it would be so much fun, but also kind of toxic, I think maybe, where you would go in and you could just talk to your friends. Now, I will say I haven't actually played My Park or My City in the NBA game, so I'm not really sure how that works as well with microphone and talking and stuff like that. But I will say that I think that having a microphone and proximity chat would be the way to go. I think that'd be very cool. It could turn bad, but I think, you're taking a risk when you're playing online gaming, so definitely put that in there. But I will say, again, it was very seamless to get into a match with your friend. If you were next to somebody, you could just play with them and you could upgrade and you could have your matches, and that was really cool. So I think that part of the online social aspect was really cool because I didn't know if it was going to be seamless like that, but it really was, and it was just very easy to jump in, play with your friend, and there you go. Now, that is what I did at Creator Fest. When I got home, that's why I really dove deep into the game mode and actually went into that single player story mode experience for the island. If you're not familiar, they have a huge, long, about 7 or 8 hour story mode, depending on how you play it and what you do with your character, to go to different things, follow people around, do all this story stuff, and I thought that was pretty interesting, so I wanted to check that out. The first thing I did when I got into the island was create a generic wrestler, and I made him a striker, and he was an indie wrestler, which I thought was pretty cool. So we just went for the base look and kind of gave him some pants and a shirt, and I thought that was kind of neat. We have some stuff to unlock. If you go into the moveset, you can actually put any finisher that you want on him, so that's kind of cool. Just do whatever you want. But I didn't do that if you want, if you have VC or you want to buy VC and just up his overalls. But going through this story in the island, you don't really need to up his overalls that much, to be honest. You can actually win pretty much most of your matches as you go through the island in the single player story mode, so that's pretty easy there. First thing you do when you get into it is you walk around and you see there's all kinds of stuff to do. There's lots of shops, but there's a little dialogue in the top left corner that tells you, hey, you should do this. Whether it's go on the line where you talk to Roman Reigns or Paul Heyman, or whether it's meet up with superstars. And meeting up with superstars is R-Truth is one of the first people that you actually meet up here, and he has some funny little dialogue here. Now, you're noticing it here right away. This is not talking to me, this is text on the screen. That puts a lot of people off, especially in 2025. I don't know what you guys feel about AI and how that all works out, but they could have done some AI with voices, you know, have R-Truth do some voiceover stuff so that his voice could be in there, use AI to read the text off. It wouldn't be perfect, but it would be cool. I'm not saying that AI is great, good, or bad, but you could use like samples of R-Truth's voice and create this AI model of R-Truth, and then anytime you talk to R-Truth, he would talk back to you. Maybe that's something I should do, but I don't know. I don't know how you feel about it. I'm on the fence about it too, but I do think it would be a lot better than actually having the text on the screen. Even next year, if they're going to continue the island, get those guys in the booth to do these lines. I think going back and forth with that would be pretty cool. That would be awesome. It's similar to Road to WrestleMania. Remember that mode? There was, you go back and talk to people. There'd be voices, stuff like that. So do that. I think that's cool. But what you're looking at here is the text on the screen. Now, I will say this because I've seen this in the comments below. There is a ton of comparison to WWE 2K20 and the originals. Yes, that's pretty much what this is. Yes, the island you can play online with your friends and unlock stuff, but the original stuff is taking your character, going through these wacky stories and unlocking things and doing this story and trying to get to the end. The idea with this is that Roman Reigns is going to offer one person a WWE contract if you can win all the way through to the end of the story. Along the way, you meet up with a lot of different people and you get to actually unlock some attires as well as doing this, so that is pretty cool. There's a lot of fun stuff in here, so there will be some spoilers along with this. If you don't want to be spoiled, I understand, but I do want to put that right out here. First off, one of the things that you do is you get to talk to R-Truth and he navigates you around, kind of go here, find here, talk to Truth here, do this, do that, do this, and R-Truth will come back later on in the story. Another thing you do is you meet up with Xavier Woods and then you find out it actually is not Xavier Woods, it's actually Zero, his create a superstar character from, you've played him before, but it's actually very interesting here. So there's an imposter in the game, you have to thwart that, and there's that. As you progress along, there's a lot more stories that you're going to go through here. It actually turns out that Roman Reigns is going to make a 6-person tournament, 6-man tag type tournament. So you and 2 other people, you're going to have to use some other created characters that are NPCs in the game, and you are going to have to team up with them, or you're going to go against them at certain points in here. You're kind of trying to figure it out, and then you get to the end. There's a tournament where you actually play to try and win that tournament, and that's how that plays out. What's interesting here is that all of these matches are versus CPU, so it's not versus regular players in the game. It's not like people online. It's just versus CPUs in this entire story. So whether you like that or you don't, that's up to you. You get to decide what you want on that, if you like it or not. There is a cool part. You get this urn and you go back and you fight different versions of The Undertaker. You get different versions of wrestlers in the 80s, and that's kind of cool. Sensational Sherry, and then there's a match with Andre, which is pretty cool. That match with Andre was kind of hard because his health is very high. It's actually purple, and then you beat him down, and then it goes to green, and then to red, and all that. But you gotta hurt him a lot, and then you get him to where you want, where you can actually get the victory here. Speaking of the Andre the Giant part, that actually comes in when you go to the Mexican wrestling part, where you actually get a mask of a former lucha libre who nobody knew who he was, but you get that mask, and then you go back in time and do some matches. It's kind of cool there. You get this mask and you get to put it on and you get to play that. As far as putting on the attire, there's a cool little part where actually with Xavier Woods and Dakota Kai and Johnny Gargano, and the idea is that you want to get attire made for you, like some mech gear made for you, and that's gonna boost your CAW or whatever, that's what they say. But it's just cool stuff that you can unlock and you can use for your created superstar, and then you can use that offline when you're playing in the main game, so that's pretty cool. But it's just neat to have this option where you can unlock attires and stuff like that without actually spending any money or VC in the real game. You can actually just play through this story and you get some pretty cool stuff. I actually kind of like the way my guy looked at the end of it. He was kind of like a Beetleborg, I would say almost Power Ranger-esque ninja type guy. I don't know, mech, whatever you want to say. But I thought it was very cool, and I liked it, and I thought that it was cool with my guy. It didn't really take it too far to one way, but I thought that it was really cool just to be able to use this attire and make your guy look pretty unique and awesome in the game. So anyway, that's what you get for unlockables. You go through this, you get that mask also if you do the Rey Mysterio story, and then you do that tournament, and then there's a big twist at the end of the game. Again, spoiler alert, and this was something I actually had no idea about. I didn't know that this was chapter 1 of the island. That's good, I guess. They're going to keep supporting the island, and more content will be dropping for this, and more free stories are pretty cool for the island. If I just log on one day, go to the island, and it's like, hey, Paul Heyman has a message on the line, go talk to him. And you're like, oh, chapter 2 is dropped. That's pretty cool. That would be awesome. So the way it goes, you do that tournament with your 2 other buddies, and then you win the tournament, and then Roman Reigns actually comes back up again, and he doesn't tell Paul Heyman this. There's actually a real video of Roman Reigns talking, which is kind of cool, and he comes up and says he's looking for somebody to join the bloodline. So you know that chapter 2 is about you joining the bloodline, and I think that's pretty neat. Honestly, I will say this about playing the single player story of the island. It was very cool. I was intrigued in it. I would have loved if there was actual dialogue and all of that on the screen, but we didn't get that, so I had to read it instead of actually having, you know, a voiceover or whatever. That would have been cool. But I do think that for what it was, I actually really did enjoy this part of the island. Will I go back and play it again? Probably not. Will I go back and jump in and just play matches? I don't think so. That's not the most fun for me in this game mode. The most fun for me was doing this little story. The least fun for me was actually a few things here, which was the negative about this mode, and that was number 1, running around the island. There's no mini map for this island, so running around the island, you have no idea what is actually going to happen, or where you're going to go, I should say. What I was looking for was like, hey, where do I go? There's a part where it's like, there's parts of this urn scattered all around the island. It's a broken urn. Go find it. Hey, R-Truth is somewhere on the island. Go find him. You're like, how do I know where he's at? I have no clue where he's at. And I had to run around, try and find him. The island's pretty big, so running around gets kind of tedious, and that kind of stinks. Maybe they'll add like vehicles or something in this, or maybe fast travel I would love to see. But at this point, there isn't fast travel or any of that. There was also some other things that I didn't like about it. There was like the shops that were there, but you couldn't do anything with them. There was parts of the arcade that were there, like, oh, I'd love to play one of these video games, but you can't, so that kind of stinks. So that's not great, but it's something that I think they could improve on. Like chapter 2, if they actually put some stuff in there that was like, hey, we're unlocking this part, we're unlocking this part, you can go to it. It wasn't before, but now you can actually go to it. I think that would be pretty sweet, because, you know, you add more to the game, and I think that's always good when you add more to the game. And last would be the wait times and the connection to the online servers. After I would go from one part of the island and I would try to enter a certain part, so like, let's say I'm going to the Arcade of Tomorrow and I actually want to enter the lobby of the Arcade of Tomorrow, it was taking so long to load. There was actually times where it took me like 10-15 minutes just to wait for this part to load to get into the arcade. And now I know it was like day 1 of the servers. I don't know if that's been fixed in a patch or whatever, but to me, it wasn't great. I was waiting forever and it took forever. There's actually times where I waited forever and then it crashed and it sent me back to the main menu. However, when I went back in, it had a save spot for me, so I loaded right back into where I was. But being able to sit there and wait for my thing to load was not a great experience. And also still, the online matches just weren't that great, where you were playing with your people that you meet online, trying to connect with people just took forever, and then actually getting into it just takes even more longer, and then the connection's not so great when you get into the matches there. But I will say, I think that if you're looking for a fun single player type experience, you can do this, you could do My Rise, you can do the Bloodline story. There's all kinds of single player stuff here, but I think the island one is something that you should go into, you should experience for yourself. You could get into it, because I was into this. When I'm investing my time into this mode, I'm going to be into it. So I think that you guys should go into it with open arms and just say, hey, I know what it's going to be. I know it's going to be a WWE 2K Originals type story, but this is what I'm getting into, and I'm going to play it, and I'm going to run around to do it. It gives you something to do in this game that you didn't have before, which I think is always cool and optimistic. Again, what I will say, I am not going back to play the island probably until they drop chapter 2 of this story. I don't really think that is something that is for me. I'm not really looking to level up my character and do all this stuff to get attires and all that, unless they drop something like crazy, like you can get this exclusive attire for the Undertaker, or this exclusive, if they would do stuff like that. Hey, you want to get this attire for The Rock that is updated currently to his current look, whatever, right now, today, or if you want this current look of this superstar, whatever, go into the island and play right now and you can unlock it. I think that'd be pretty cool, but they don't have that. And I think having like free events for that would be cool. They said there's going to be like live events. There weren't any live events currently at the time, so I don't know if that's going to change it, and that's going to change my thought on this. But honestly, I like the story. I wish there was actual voiceovers on this, but there wasn't. But I did think it was a neat little story. You go to the 4 different parts of the island and there's things to do there, and there's different stories, and it's unique, and you get in these different arenas, and I think that's really, really cool. So honestly, I do think that I enjoyed this. Will I go back and play it again? Probably not, but I think I spent my time into this. Is this something that you like for a gameplay experience, that you're one and done? I honestly do like a one and done type thing, because you take a list of things that you got to do in this game and check it off, and now you move on to the next one. Because I completed the island, now I can go on to the Bloodline, or now I can go on to the My Rise. So it just depends on what you like. Or do you like a